Deep in the shadowed vaults of an ancient Egyptian tomb, a cursed golden coffin whispers secrets of betrayal and murder, waiting to ensnare the unwary. As the lid creaks open, unleashing a chill that freezes the soul. Welcome to the golden coffin, secrets buried alive. Poirot investigates. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and let this suspenseful tale unfold. If you're hooked and enjoying the mystery, hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's dive into the enigma. Chapter 1. The whisper of the Nile Hercule Poirot adjusted his immaculate moustache, gazing out over the sun-baked sands of Egypt as the steamer chugged along the Nile. It was 1923, and the air buzzed with the excitement of archaeological fever, ever since Howard Carter's discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb the year before. Poirot, the renowned Belgian detective, had been invited by his old friend, Sir Reginald Harrington, a wealthy British collector of antiquities, to join an exclusive expedition. Mon ami, Sir Reginald had written in his urgent telegram, a find that rivals the Boy King. Gold, jewels, and perhaps a curse. Your little grey cells are needed. Poirot, ever the lover of puzzles, couldn't resist. As the boat docked at Luxor, he stepped ashore, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the warm dust, ready to unravel whatever threads of mystery awaited. The expedition camp sprawled like a canvas city amid the ruins of Karnak, tents flapping in the hot breeze, workers shouting in Arabic as they hauled crates of artifacts. Sir Reginald greeted Poirot with a firm handshake, his face tanned and lined from years under the desert sun. "Poirot, old chap, you've arrived just in time. We've uncovered something extraordinary. A golden coffin, intact, sealed for millennia." His eyes gleamed with the fervour of a true enthusiast, but Poirot detected a flicker of unease beneath the excitement. Around them, the team bustled. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a sharp-eyed Spanish archaeologist with a reputation for deciphering hieroglyphs. Young Arthur Langley, Sir Reginald's ambitious nephew and assistant, whose hands trembled slightly as he catalogued shards of pottery. And Madame Isabelle Duval, a glamorous French widow funding part of the dig, her silk scarf billowing like a flag of intrigue. Poirot nodded politely to each, his keen eyes noting the subtle tensions, the way Arthur avoided Eleanor's gaze, or how Isabel's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the excavation site, Sir Reginald led Poirot down into the tomb. The air grew cooler, thicker with the scent of earth and antiquity. Torches flickered, illuminating walls adorned with vivid paintings of pharaohs and gods. At the chamber's heart lay the prize, a sarcophagus of pure gold, etched with curses warning of doom for any who disturbed the eternal rest. "It's from the 18th dynasty," Eleanor explained, her voice echoing softly. "The inscriptions speak of a high priestess, buried alive for treason against the pharaoh. They say her spirit guards the secrets within." Poirot circled the coffin, tapping his cane thoughtfully. "Secrets, madame? Or perhaps lies buried to protect the living?" He paused, his little grey cells already whirring. That night, over a dinner of spiced lamb and dates under the stars, the group shared stories of past digs. Eleanor's tale of a lost amulet in Peru that brought fortune to its finder, Arthur's awkward recounting of a near collapse in a Syrian ruin, and Isabel's whispered confession of her late husband's obsession with Egyptian lore, which had left her a fortune but a broken heart. Sir Reginald raised a glass. "To the golden coffin, may it reveal wonders, not woes." But as the moon rose high, a piercing scream shattered the camp's peace. Poirot bolted from his tent, arriving to find the group gathered around the excavation entrance. Arthur Langley lay crumpled at the bottom of the steps, his neck twisted unnaturally, a look of terror frozen on his face. "He must have fallen," Sir Reginald stammered, but Poirot knelt, examining the body. "No simple accident. The young man's fingers clutched a small golden scarab beetle, and faint bruises suggested a struggle. "Murder!" Poirot declared quietly, his voice cutting through the gasps. "And in the shadow of the coffin, someone here knows why." Elena paled, Isabel clutched her pearls, and Sir Reginald looked stricken. As the police were summoned from Luxor, Poirot began his inquiries, starting with the artifacts log, where Arthur had noted discrepancies in the inventory. Missing jewels, perhaps. The desert wind howled like a warning, and Poirot sensed the curse was no ancient myth, but a very modern veil for greed and deception. The next morning, with Arthur's body removed and the camp in sombre hush, Poirot gathered the suspects in the main tent. "Mes amis, let us speak plainly. Arthur did not die by chance. He was pushed, or worse, after discovering something amiss." Eleanor admitted to arguing with Arthur over translation errors on the coffin's lid. She believed it hid a map to a greater treasure, while he dismissed it as superstition. Isabel confessed her funding came with strings. Her husband's will tied her wealth to recovering specific relics. Sir Reginald, sweating under Poirot's gaze, revealed Arthur had been embezzling small artifacts to fund his own ventures. "But I confronted him privately. I'd never harm the boy." Yet doubts lingered. Poirot paced, piecing clues. A footprint in the sand matching Isabel's elegant boots, a torn scrap of Elena's notebook near the body, and Sir Reginald's handkerchief stained with what might be blood. Or was it red ochre from the dig? As the day wore on, Poirot delved deeper, examining the golden coffin itself. With Elena's help, he translated more hieroglyphs. "The one who seeks the heart of gold shall find only death's embrace." A metaphor, or a literal warning. Inside the coffin, they found not a mummy, but a hollow chamber, empty save for a single papyrus scroll, its edges singed as if recently tampered with. This was no burial, Poirot mused. A decoy, perhaps, to hide something greater. Arthur must have known and paid the price. Practical tip for any aspiring sleuth: always secure the scene. Poirot instructed the workers to guard the tomb, preventing further tampering. As evening fell, he shared a quiet tea with Sir Reginald, probing gently. "Tell me of your nephew's debts. Were they dire?" The answer hinted at desperation, but not motive enough for murder. Wrapping up the initial shock, Poirot reflected on the human heart's capacity for betrayal. Much like the ancient tales etched in stone, the Nile whispered on, carrying secrets downstream, but Poirot's mind raced ahead. What lay in that scroll, and who would strike next? This was merely the opening act in a drama of deception, leading us seamlessly into the deepening shadows of suspicion. Chapter 2. Shadows of the Scroll. The morning sun scorched the Karnak camp, but a chill lingered in the air as Hercule Poirot stood before the golden coffin, the singed papyrus scroll, now safely tucked in his leather notebook. The death of Arthur Langley had cast a pall over the expedition, and whispers of the curse grew louder among the workers, who refused to enter the tomb without muttered prayers. Poirot, however, dismissed superstition, his sharp eyes scanning the faces of the remaining team, Sir Reginald Harrington, Dr. Elena Vasquez, and Madame Isabelle Duval, for signs of guilt or fear. Each held secrets, he was certain, and the scroll might hold the key to unravelling them. He called a meeting in the main tent, the canvas walls flapping like uneasy spirits, determined to probe deeper into the mystery. Poirot began by questioning Eleanor about the scroll's contents. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unrolled a facsimile she'd prepared overnight, her voice steady but low. "It's a map, Monsieur Poirot, but not a typical one. It points to a hidden chamber beneath the Valley of the Kings, marked by the symbol of Anubis, the jackal god. The text speaks of a heart of gold, not just treasure, but something sacred. Perhaps a relic tied to the high priestess's betrayal." Her dark eyes darted towards Sir Reginald, who shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Poirot noted the tension but pressed on. asking Isabel about her late husband's obsession with Egyptian relics. Claude was consumed by tales of a golden heart, a mythical artifact said to grant power over life and death, she admitted, her voice a soft purr. He believed it was real, and his will demanded I fund this dig to find it. Her gaze lingered on the scroll, almost hungry, and Poirot's moustache twitched with suspicion. As the meeting adjourned, Poirot took a solitary walk to the excavation site, the golden coffin gleaming under torchlight in the tomb's depths. He examined the chamber walls, noticing faint scratches near the base, marks of a tool perhaps, suggesting someone had searched for a hidden passage. Could Arthur have stumbled upon this secret chamber before his death? Returning to the camp, Poirot overheard a heated exchange between Sir Reginald and a local worker, Ahmed, who claimed tools had gone missing from the site. Thieves, or worse, Ahmed muttered, eyeing the foreigners warily. Poirot approached, his calm demeanour disarming the man. Ahmed revealed that Arthur had been seen near the tomb late at night, carrying a satchel that clinked like metal. He wasn't alone, Ahmed added. There was a shadow, a woman, I think. Poirot's mind raced. Isabel or Elena? That afternoon, Poirot invited Sir Reginald for a private stroll along the Nile's edge, the river's gentle lapping a stark contrast to the tension in the camp. Tell me, Sir Reginald, of your trust in your team, Poirot said, his tone conversational but probing. The collector sighed, admitting he'd grown wary of Isabel's motives. Her funding seemed contingent on finding specific items, not just academic discovery. And Elena, he added, she's brilliant but secretive. She keeps her notes locked away, as if she fears someone stealing her work. Poirot nodded, filing away this distrust. Later, he caught Eleanor sketching near the tomb, her pencil pausing as she noticed his approach. You suspect me, don't you? She asked bluntly. Poirot smiled thinly. I suspect everyone, mademoiselle, until the truth reveals itself. As dusk settled, Poirot returned to the tomb alone, torch in hand, to study the Anubis symbol etched near the coffin. It was no mere decoration. Its edges were worn, as if pressed repeatedly. Kneeling, he tapped the stone floor, hearing a hollow echo. A trapdoor? Before he could investigate further, a soft footfall echoed behind him. He turned, but the chamber was empty, save for a faint scent of jasmine. Isabel's perfume, perhaps. His heart quickened. Not from fear, but from the thrill of the chase. The scroll's map was leading somewhere, but so were the lies of those around him. Back at the camp, he found a small discarded vial near Elena's tent. Its label faded, but hinting at a chemical used to age paper artificially. Was someone forging artifacts to inflate the dig's value? By nightfall, the camp gathered for a tense dinner, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Poirot observed Isabel's delicate fingers toying with her necklace, a golden ankh that seemed too new for an antique. Sir Reginald drank heavily, his jovial facade crumbling. Eleanor excused herself early, claiming fatigue, but Poirot saw her slip a notebook into her satchel. As the stars emerged, he sat by his tent, piecing together the puzzle. A hidden chamber, a mythical relic, and a murder to protect it all. The scroll was no mere guide. It was a fuse, and someone was desperate to keep it unlit. The mystery deepened, pulling Poirot toward a truth buried as carefully as the coffin itself, setting the stage for revelations yet to come. Chapter 3. The Hidden Door. The dawn broke over the Karnak camp with a fiery glow, but Hercule Poirot was already awake, his mind buzzing from the previous night's discoveries. The hollow echo beneath the Anubis symbol in the tomb gnawed at him, a clue that demanded exploration. He sipped a cup of strong coffee, his eyes scanning the quiet camp where the workers moved cautiously, their whispers of curses now laced with fear of a modern killer. Poirot's focus was singular: the scroll's map and the possibility of a hidden chamber. He resolved to return to the tomb, but this time with tools to test the floor's secret. The stakes were higher now. A murderer walked among them, and the truth lay buried beneath stone and deception. Poirot enlisted Ahmed, the local worker who had spoken of seeing a woman's shadow with Arthur, to assist him in the tomb. Armed with a small crowbar and a lantern, they descended into the cool, dim chamber, the golden coffin casting eerie reflections. Poirot knelt by the Anubis carving, tapping the floor again. The hollow sound was unmistakable. "Ahmed, help me here," he said, pointing to a seam in the stone, barely visible to the untrained eye. Together, they pried at the slab, muscles straining until it shifted with a groan, revealing a narrow stone staircase descending into darkness. The air that wafted up was stale, heavy with the weight of centuries. Ahmed hesitated, muttering a prayer, but Poirot's curiosity was unshaken. "The truth does not fear the dark. Mon ami," he said, descending carefully, lantern in hand. The staircase led to a small, unadorned chamber, its walls bare except for a single carved relief, a jackal-headed Anubis guarding a heart-shaped relic. In the center stood a stone pedestal, empty but for a faint outline in the dust, as if something had been recently removed. Poirot's keen eyes spotted a tiny fragment of gold leaf caught in a crack, proof that something precious had been here. "The heart of gold," he murmured, recalling the scroll's words. But who had taken it, and when? He climbed back to the surface, instructing Ahmed to keep the discovery secret for now. The camp was stirring, and Poirot needed to observe the others before revealing the chamber's existence. At breakfast, the tension among the team was palpable. Sir Reginald, nursing a headache from the previous night's wine, avoided Poirot's gaze, focusing instead on a ledger of expenses. Isabel, radiant in a cream linen dress, spoke animatedly about her late husband's belief in the heart's mystical powers, her words almost too rehearsed. Elena, meanwhile, was absent, her tent flap closed. Poirot excused himself and approached her tent, knocking softly. She emerged, her hair dishevelled, clutching a notebook. "Monsieur Poirot, I was working late," she said, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of panic. Poirot smiled politely. "Perhaps you can share your latest translations, mademoiselle? They may shed light on our tragedy." Eleanor nodded, promising to join him later, but her hesitation spoke volumes. Later, Poirot confronted Sir Reginald privately near the excavation crates, where workers sorted pottery shards. "Sir Reginald, you spoke of Arthur's debts, but did he ever mention finding something valuable, something like a golden relic?" The collector's face reddened. "He hinted at a big discovery, yes, but I thought he was boasting to impress Isabel. The boy was smitten with her." Poirot's eyebrow arched, another thread to tug. He sought out Isabel next, finding her by the Nile, sketching the river's curve. "Madame, your charm is undeniable, but did it lead young Arthur to share secrets he shouldn't have?" Isabel laughed, a brittle sound. "He was sweet but naive. He showed me a sketch of a heart-shaped relic, claiming it was close. I thought it was just a boy's fantasy." As the day waned, Poirot returned to the hidden chamber alone, this time noticing a faint scratch on the pedestal, a mark of a modern tool, not ancient craftsmanship. Someone had been here recently. Perhaps Arthur, perhaps his killer. Back at the camp, he overheard workers gossiping about a stranger seen near the tomb 2 nights before Arthur's death. A man in a dark cloak, slipping away at dawn. Poirot's mind raced. An outsider, or one of the team in disguise? He examined Elena's notebook when she left it unattended, finding a sketch of the Anubis relief, dated before the chamber's discovery. How had she known? Confronting her, he pressed gently. "Your knowledge precedes our findings, mademoiselle. Care to explain?" Eleanor's face paled. "I found an older text in Cairo, hinting at the chamber. I didn't want to share until I was sure." The day ended with Poirot sitting by the campfire, the flames casting shadows that danced like the lies surrounding him. The empty pedestal, the gold leaf, the cloaked stranger, all pointed to a theft and Arthur's murder as its consequence. But whose hand had struck? Elena's foreknowledge, Isabel's allure, or Sir Reginald's desperation to protect his legacy? The hidden chamber had revealed a piece of the puzzle, but the heart of gold remained elusive, its absence a silent taunt. The trail grew warmer, leading Poirot deeper into a labyrinth of motives and moonlight shadows. Chapter 4. The Stranger in the Shadows. The desert night enveloped the Karnak camp, stars glittering coldly above as Hercule Poirot sat in his tent, the lantern casting a soft glow over his notebook. The hidden chamber's empty pedestal haunted his thoughts, its missing relic, a heart-shaped treasure, now the linchpin of the mystery. The rumour of a cloaked stranger seen near the tomb before Arthur Langley's murder added a new layer of intrigue. Was this figure an outsider or one of the camp's own, cloaked in deceit? Poirot's little grey cells churned, piecing together the fragments. Elena's foreknowledge of the Anubis relief, Isabel's connection to Arthur's sketches, and Sir Reginald's evasive glances. He resolved to hunt for traces of this stranger, certain their presence tied directly to the murder. At dawn, Poirot slipped out before the camp stirred, heading to the tomb's entrance where Ahmed had seen the mysterious figure. The sand, disturbed by nightly winds, offered little, but near a cluster of rocks he found a cigarette butt, its brand foreign. French, not the local tobacco the workers smoked. Poirot pocketed it, his mind flicking to Isabelle Duval, whose Parisian elegance stood out in the desert. He returned to the camp as the team gathered for breakfast, their faces drawn with exhaustion and suspicion. Sir Reginald announced a pause in excavation to honour Arthur, but Poirot sensed it was a tactic to control the narrative. "We must focus on safety," Sir Reginald said, his voice tight. Poirot nodded, feigning agreement, but his eyes scanned for clues. He approached Ahmed again, this time near the supply tent, where crates of tools and provisions were stacked. "Tell me more of this stranger," Poirot urged, his tone calm but insistent. Ahmed hesitated, glancing around. He was tall, hooded, moving quickly toward the river. "I thought he was a thief, but he left no tracks." Poirot pressed further, asking if the figure carried anything. Ahmed frowned, recalling a faint glint, like metal or glass, a relic perhaps. Poirot thanked him, then sought out Isabelle, finding her polishing a small bronze statue by her tent. "Madame, a word about your travels. Do you smoke perhaps a French brand?" He held up the cigarette butt. Isabelle's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "Claude smoked those, but I never did." "Perhaps a worker found an old pack." Her answer was too smooth, and Poirot filed it away. Midday, Poirot joined Elena at the excavation records tent, where she was cross-referencing hieroglyphs. He noticed her hands tremble as she handled a photograph of the Anubis relief. "Mademoiselle, your sketch of the relief predates our discovery, yet you claim it came from a Cairo text. May I see this text?" Elena flushed, admitting she'd misplaced it in the chaos of Arthur's death. "It was a minor source, Monsieur Poirot, nothing more." Her defensiveness sharpened his suspicion. He left her to her work and sought Sir Reginald, who was inspecting a shipment of supplies near the river. "Sir Reginald, have you noticed visitors to the camp? Perhaps uninvited ones?" The collector shook his head, but his eyes darted toward the Nile, where a small boat bobbed, its owner obscured by a canopy. That evening, Poirot followed a hunch, walking to the riverbank where the boat was moored. He found fresh footprints, larger than Isabelle's or Elena's, leading to a discarded scrap of cloth. Dark, like a cloak, and smelling faintly of jasmine, the scent again pointed to Isabelle, but the footprints suggested a man. A partner, perhaps? He returned to the camp, where a commotion erupted. A worker had found a broken vial in the sand near the tomb, its contents evaporated but leaving a chemical stain. Poirot recognized it as similar to the vial near Elena's tent, hinting at forgery or sabotage. He confronted Sir Reginald privately, asking about the camp's chemical supplies. "We use preservatives for artifacts," Sir Reginald admitted, "but Arthur handled those. If someone tampered..." His voice trailed off, fear creeping in. As night fell, Poirot sat by the tomb's entrance, the golden coffin's curse seeming less mythical with each revelation. The stranger's presence, the cigarette butt, the cloth, the vial, all wove a web of conspiracy. Was Isabel working with an accomplice, using her charm to distract? Did Eleanor's lost text hide a darker motive? Or was Sir Reginald's pause in the dig a cover for his own theft? The heart of gold was out there, and someone had killed to possess it. Poirot's gaze drifted to the river, where the boat rocked gently, its secrets bobbing just out of reach. The mystery tightened its grip, pulling him toward a confrontation that loomed under the desert stars. Chapter 5. The river's whisper. The Nile shimmered under the midday sun, its surface a deceptive mirror of calm that belied the undercurrents of danger swirling through the Karnak camp. Hercule Poirot stood on the riverbank, his polished shoes dusted with sand, his eyes fixed on the small boat moored a short distance away. The dark cloth he'd found last night, scented with jasmine and tucked into his pocket, felt like a tangible thread in the tapestry of deceit surrounding Arthur Langley's murder. The cloaked stranger, the chemical vials, and the missing heart-shaped relic all pointed to a conspiracy deeper than a simple theft. Poirot's little grey cells hummed with purpose. He would follow the river's lead, for it had carried secrets long before this expedition began. Determined to uncover the boat's owner, Poirot approached the dockworker, a wiry man named Khalil, who was mending nets nearby. "Monsieur, this boat, who uses it?" Poirot asked, his tone genial but firm. Khalil squinted, wiping sweat from his brow. "It belongs to the camp, but I saw a man in a dark cloak use it 2 nights ago, heading downstream. He returned before dawn, alone." Poirot pressed for details, learning the man was tall, his face hidden, and his movements swift, as if avoiding notice. The glint Ahmed had seen, metal or glass, nagged at Poirot. Could it be the heart of gold smuggled away? Thanking Khalil, he resolved to inspect the boat himself. But first, he needed to confront the camp's trio of suspects with new questions. Back at the camp, the air was thick with unease. The workers moved sluggishly, their fear of the curse now mingled with distrust of the foreigners. Poirot found Sir Reginald Harrington in his tent, poring over a map of the Valley of the Kings, his fingers stained with ink. "Sir Reginald, a moment," Poirot said, stepping inside. "This boat by the river, has it been used recently, perhaps without your knowledge?" The collector's eyes widened briefly before he shrugged. "It's for supplies, Poirot. Arthur used it sometimes to fetch tools from Luxor." "Why?" Poirot noted the evasion but pressed gently. "A stranger was seen, mon ami, and strangers bring questions." "Did Arthur ever speak of meeting someone by the river?" Sir Reginald hesitated, then admitted Arthur had mentioned a contact in Cairo, someone offering to buy artifacts under the table. "I told him to stop, but he was headstrong," he muttered, his voice heavy with regret. Poirot's next stop was Isabelle Duval, who was lounging under a canopy, fanning herself with a silk scarf that carried the faint scent of jasmine. Her elegance seemed a deliberate shield, and Poirot tested it. "Madame, your perfume is distinctive, yet I found a cloth by the river with a similar fragrance. And this cigarette butt," he said, producing the French brand, "reminds me of your late husband's habits. Care to enlighten me?" Isabelle's eyes narrowed, but her smile remained. "Claude's old belongings are still in my trunks, Monsieur Poirot. Perhaps a worker took something. As for the cloth, jasmine is common here, is it not?" Her deflection was artful, but Poirot noticed her fingers tighten around the fan, betraying a crack in her composure. Elena Vasquez was harder to find, tucked away in the records tent, surrounded by stacks of photographs and notes. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed as if she hadn't slept. Poirot entered quietly, observing her frantic scribbling. "Mademoiselle, your lost Cairo text troubles me," he said, his voice soft but probing. "And this vial, like the one near your tent, suggests someone is tampering with artifacts. Was it you protecting your work?" Eleanor's pen froze, and she met his gaze with defiance. I'm no forger, monsieur. I found that vial near the tomb days ago and kept it to analyze. Someone's trying to discredit this dig. Maybe to steal the glory. She pushed a photograph toward him, showing a faint outline of a heart-shaped object in the hidden chamber's dust. Arthur saw this too. He was excited, said it would make us famous. Her voice cracked, and Poirot wondered if her grief was for Arthur or the lost relic. That afternoon, Poirot slipped away to the boat, climbing aboard with care. Its deck was weathered, but in a corner he found a small tarnished locket, engraved with an ankh symbol and a single initial. C. Claude, Isabel's late husband, or a coincidence? Inside, a tiny portrait showed a woman resembling Isabel, but younger, her eyes fierce. Tucking it away, Poirot searched further, finding a hidden compartment under a plank. Inside was a single page, torn from a notebook, with a sketch of the heart of gold and a note in French. Deliver to Cairo, midnight 12th. The date was 2 days before Arthur's death. Poirot's pulse quickened. This was no coincidence. Someone had planned a transaction, and Arthur had likely stumbled into it. As evening descended, Poirot gathered the trio in the main tent, his demeanour calm, but his words sharp. Mes amis, the river tells tales. A boat, a stranger, a locket, and a note all point to a plan that cost Arthur his life. Who among you dealt with Cairo? Silence fell, heavy as the desert heat. Sir Reginald's jaw tightened, Isabel's fan stilled, and Eleanor's hands clenched her notebook. Finally Isabel spoke, her voice low. Claude had contacts in Cairo, shady dealers. I cut ties after his death, but Arthur, he asked me about them, said he needed money. Eleanor interjected. He was reckless, poking into things he didn't understand. Sir Reginald slammed his fist. Enough! I trusted you all, and now my nephew is dead. The accusations flew, but Poirot raised a hand, silencing them. The truth is close, but it hides in the shadows of your words. As the camp settled into an uneasy night, Poirot sat by his tent, the locket and note in hand. The river whispered secrets, and the heart of gold was no mere myth. It was a prize worth killing for. The stranger's identity loomed larger, a phantom tying Isabel's past, Eleanor's knowledge, and Sir Reginald's desperation. The note's midnight rendezvous suggested a betrayal planned long before the coffin was opened. Poirot's gaze drifted to the boat, its silhouette dark against the moonlit Nile. The next step was clear. Find the Cairo connection before the killer struck again to bury the truth forever. Chapter 6. The Cairo Connection. The Karnak camp lay hushed under a crescent moon, the Nile's gentle ripples masking the tension that gripped Hercule Poirot's thoughts. The torn note from the boat, with its cryptic instruction to deliver to Cairo midnight 12th, burned in his mind, a clue pointing to a shadowy transaction tied to Arthur Langley's murder. The locket with the ankh and the initial C suggested a link to Isabelle Duval's past, but the French cigarette butt, Elena's evasiveness, and Sir Reginald's guarded demeanour kept Poirot's suspicions broad. Someone in the camp had dealings in Cairo, and he was determined to trace this thread before it unravelled further. The heart of gold, stolen from the hidden chamber, was out there, and its trail led north. Poirot began his day early, slipping into Luxor under the guise of fetching supplies. At a bustling cafe near the souk, he met a contact, Inspector Mahmoud, a sharp-eyed Egyptian policeman who owed Poirot a favour from a case in Alexandria. Of a sweet mint tea, Poirot shared the note's details. Cairo, midnight the 12th, he said, sliding the paper across the table. Mahmoud's brow furrowed. That date aligns with a report of black market artifact dealings in Cairo's Khan El Khalili Bazaar. A dealer named Farouk is known for handling high-value relics, no questions asked. Poirot leaned forward. And foreigners? Any scene with him? Mahmoud nodded. A tall man, cloaked, was spotted at Farouk's shop days before your young man's death. My informants couldn't see his face. Poirot's moustache twitched. A match for Ahmed's stranger. Back at the camp, Poirot observed the team with renewed focus. Sir Reginald was overseeing workers unloading crates, his commands curt, as if distracted. Poirot approached, feigning casual interest. "Sir Reginald, did Arthur ever travel to Cairo for the expedition?" The collector paused, wiping dust from his hands. "Once or twice, for supplies. He was eager, always volunteering. I didn't think much of it." His eyes avoided Poirot's, and the detective noted the lie's faint tremor. Seeking Isabel next, Poirot found her writing a letter by her tent, the ankh locket gleaming at her throat. "Madame, this locket," he said, gesturing to it. "It bears a C, a keepsake from Claude or another." Isabel's fingers brushed the locket, her voice soft. "Claude gave it to me years ago, a token from his first dig." "Why do you ask?" Poirot smiled thinly. "Curiosity, madame. It has a way of finding answers." Elena was in the tomb, photographing the golden coffin's inscriptions, her movements precise but tense. Poirot joined her, his lantern casting long shadows. "Mademoiselle, your knowledge of Cairo texts is impressive. Did Arthur share your interest in the city's markets, perhaps its dealers?" Eleanor stiffened, setting down her camera. "He asked about my sources once, said he wanted to verify something for Sir Reginald. I told him to stay out of it. Those dealers are dangerous." Her warning sounded genuine, but Poirot caught a flicker of fear in her eyes. Was she protecting herself or someone else? He left her to her work, his mind circling back to the cloaked figure. That afternoon, Poirot borrowed a horse from the camp and rode to a nearby village, where a telegraph office connected him to Cairo. He wired Mahmoud, asking for more on Farouk's recent clients. The reply came swiftly. A woman matching Isabel's description had visited Farouk's shop a month ago, inquiring about a heart-shaped relic. Poirot's pulse quickened. Isabel had lied about cutting ties with Cairo's dealers. Returning to the camp, he found a new clue. A worker reported a missing crowbar, last seen near the boat. Poirot inspected the dock again, noticing fresh scratches on the boat's hull, as if something heavy had been loaded or unloaded in haste. The heart of gold, perhaps. As dusk settled, Poirot gathered the trio in the main tent, his demeanor calm, but his words pointed. "Mes amis," Cairo calls to us. "A dealer named Farouk trades in relics, and someone here knows him, a cloaked man. A woman with an ankh locket. Threads led north, and they tie to Arthur's death." Isabel gasped, her hand flying to her locket. "You think I'm involved?" "I only sought information for Claude's legacy," Elena interjected. "Arthur was reckless, asking about Farouk in letters I saw him write." Sir Reginald's face darkened. "My nephew was no thief, but he was desperate for money. If he met this Farouk, it was his own folly." Their defences clashed, each deflecting blame, but Poirot's gaze cut through the noise. "The truth is in Cairo, and I will find it." That night, Poirot sat by the Nile, the locket and note in his hands, the river's whispers urging him on. The cloaked stranger, Farouk's dealings, and Isabel's visit formed a dangerous triangle, with the heart of gold at its centre. Was Isabel playing a double game, using her charm to mask a darker motive? Did Elena's warnings hide her own involvement? Or was Sir Reginald's grief a facade for a deeper betrayal? The trail to Cairo was the next step, but danger lurked closer, in the camp's shadows, where the killer watched and waited for Poirot to falter. Chapter 7. Shadows over Cairo. The bustling streets of Cairo pulsed with life under the relentless Egyptian sun, a cacophony of vendors hawking spices, silks, and trinkets amid the ancient minarets and modern clamour. Hercule Poirot, his immaculate suit slightly rumpled from the steamer journey from Luxor, navigated the throngs with purposeful strides, his cane tapping rhythmically against the cobblestones. The revelations from the Karnak camp, the torn note, the ankh locket, and the whispers of Farouk the dealer had compelled him to venture north, leaving the expedition under the watchful eye of Inspector Mahmoud's local officers. Poirot's little grey cells were ablaze with connections. Isabel's visit to Farouk's shop, Elena's evasive knowledge of Cairo texts, and Sir Reginald's subtle admissions about Arthur's desperation. The heart of gold, that elusive relic, was here in the city, he was certain, and its guardian, or thief, would soon be unmasked. But Cairo's labyrinthine alleys held dangers of their own, where secrets were traded like currency and betrayal lurked in every shadow. Upon arriving at the Grand Shepherd's Hotel, Poirot checked into a modest suite overlooking the Nile, its waters a muddy brown mirror reflecting the city's chaotic energy. He wasted no time, summoning Inspector Mahmoud to the hotel's opulent lounge, where ceiling fans stirred the heavy air scented with cigar smoke and jasmine tea. Mahmoud, a tall man with a neatly trimmed beard and piercing dark eyes, arrived promptly, his uniform crisp despite the heat. "Monsieur Poirot, your wire was urgent," he said, sliding into the booth opposite the detective. Poirot nodded, producing the torn note and the locket. "These items, Inspector, link my camp's murder to your city's underbelly." "Farouk, tell me everything." Mahmoud leaned in, his voice low. "Farouk operates from a hidden shop in Khan el-Khalili, dealing in antiquities both legal and otherwise. He's clever, with connections to smugglers from Alexandria to Aswan. Recently, he's been boasting of a golden heart that could fetch a pharaoh's ransom. But he's gone quiet since the 12th. Your notes date." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And visitors? A woman like Isabelle Duval, or a cloaked man?" Mahmoud confirmed Isabelle's visit, adding that a tall, hooded figure had been seen entering Farouk's shop the night of the 12th, carrying a small, wrapped package. "My men watched, but he slipped away into the souk. Farouk claims ignorance, but he's lying." Fueled by this intelligence, Poirot set out for the Khan el-Khalili Bazaar, a maze of narrow lanes teeming with merchants, tourists, and pickpockets. The air was thick with the aromas of grilled kebabs, incense, and leather goods, voices haggling in Arabic, English, and French. Disguised in a simple fedora and loose jacket to blend in, though his moustache remained a giveaway, Poirot wove through the crowds, his senses alert. He paused at a spice stall, pretending interest in saffron while observing the surroundings. Farouk's shop was tucked behind a curtained doorway marked by a faded sign of an ankh, subtle enough to deter casual visitors. Poirot entered, the bell tinkling softly as he stepped into a dimly lit room crammed with artifacts, scarab amulets, ushabti figures, and dusty papyrus scrolls. Farouk, a portly man with oiled hair and a gold-toothed smile, emerged from the back, his eyes narrowing at the stranger. "Ahlan wa sahlan, Effendi. What treasures seek you today?" Poirot removed his fedora, his voice smooth but authoritative. "Monsieur Farouk, I am Hercule Poirot, detective extraordinaire. I seek not to buy, but to inquire about a certain relic, a heart of gold, and a delivery on the 12th. Farouk's smile faltered, his hands fidgeting with a brass lamp. "I know nothing of such things, mere rumours in the bazaar." But Poirot persisted, describing the cloaked figure and the note. Sweat beaded on Farouk's brow as he glanced toward a back room. Perhaps a client mentioned a golden artifact, but no delivery. "Now, if you'll excuse," Poirot interrupted, his tone sharpening. "The murder of Arthur Langley in Karnak is no rumour, monsieur. He died for that relic, and your silence makes you an accomplice." Farouk paled, ushering Poirot to a private alcove. In hushed tones, he confessed. The cloaked man had delivered a package, claiming it was from a southern dig. Farouk examined it, a heart-shaped gold relic etched with hieroglyphs, before the man demanded it back, paying handsomely for discretion. He spoke with a British accent, Effendi, refined but urgent, and he mentioned a woman. "Isabelle will handle the rest." This revelation sent Poirot's mind racing. Isabelle's involvement seemed confirmed, but the British accent pointed to Sir Reginald or perhaps Arthur himself, though he was dead. Leaving Farouk with a warning to stay put, Poirot delved deeper into the bazaar, following a lead from Mahmoud about a smuggler's den near the citadel. The streets grew narrower, the crowds thinner, shadows lengthening as the sun dipped. At a nondescript tea house, he met an informant, a wiry youth named Rami, who traded information for coins. The cloaked one? Seen him with a French lady at the Nile docks, arguing about a cursed heart, Rami whispered, his eyes darting. She had an ankh necklace like yours. Poirot touched the locket in his pocket, thanking Rami before slipping away. The pieces fit. Isabel and the stranger, perhaps her accomplice, plotting to sell the relic. Returning to the hotel as dusk fell, Poirot wired the Karnak camp, instructing Mahmoud's officers to monitor Isabel, Elena, and Sir Reginald closely. A telegram awaited him from Inspector Mahmoud. A breakthrough. Fingerprints on the note matched those on a cigarette case from Isabel's belongings, sent for analysis. But the case is engraved with CH, the message read. Claude Harrington, Poirot pondered. Claude was Isabel's husband, but Harrington was Sir Reginald's surname. A family connection. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was a messenger boy delivering an anonymous note. The heart beats in Cairo's old mosque. Come alone at midnight, or it vanishes forever. Poirot's pulse quickened. A trap, surely, but one he couldn't ignore. Midnight found Poirot at the ancient Al-Hussein Mosque, its minarets piercing the starry sky. The courtyard empty save for the echo of distant calls to prayer. He waited in the shadows, his cane ready as a weapon. Footsteps approached, and a cloaked figure emerged, face obscured. You have meddled enough, Poirot, the voice rasped, British indeed. The figure lunged, a glint of steel in hand, but Poirot sidestepped, his cane cracking against the assailant's wrist. The knife clattered away, and in the struggle the hood fell back, revealing not Sir Reginald, but a man with a scarred face, unknown to Poirot. Who sent you? Poirot demanded, pinning him. The man spat. The widow pays well. Before more could be said, a shot rang out from the darkness, the assailant slumping lifeless. Poirot dove for cover, heart pounding, as footsteps fled into the night. Shaken but unharmed, Poirot summoned Mahmoud, who arrived with officers to secure the scene. The dead man was identified as a local thug, hired muscle for bazaar dealings. No papers, but his pockets held French coins, Mahmoud noted. Poirot nodded grimly. The widow, Isabel. But the shot, an ally turning on him, or a rival silencing a loose end? Back at the hotel, Poirot pieced it together over a late-night brandy. Isabel's ties to Claude, the locket's C, the British stranger. Perhaps Claude wasn't dead, but hiding, orchestrating the theft with Isabel. Or Sir Reginald, Claude's brother. The surnames matched now in his mind. Claude Harrington. Isabel Duval, his widow by marriage. A family affair of greed. As dawn broke over Cairo, Poirot prepared to return to Karnak, the heart of gold still elusive but the web of deceit tightening. The midnight ambush had revealed a killer's desperation, and the relic's location remained a taunt. Isabel's role loomed larger, but Eleanor's texts and Sir Reginald's secrets couldn't be ignored. The Nile steamer awaited, carrying Poirot back to the desert, where the golden coffin guarded its final truths. Yet Cairo's shadows clung, whispering of betrayals yet to unfold, drawing the detective toward a climax buried in sand and lies. Chapter 8. The veil lifts. The Nile steamer chugged steadily southward from Cairo, its paddle wheels churning the muddy waters into frothy waves that slapped against the hull like impatient questions demanding answers. Hercule Poirot stood at the railing, his hands clasped behind his back, his immaculate moustache twitching slightly in the warm breeze that carried scents of papyrus reeds and distant cook fires from the riverbanks. The events in Cairo, the shadowy confrontation with Farouk, the midnight ambush at the Al-Hussein Mosque, and the chilling revelation of the hired thug's words about the widow had etched deeper lines of determination on his face. The heart of gold remained elusive, a phantom relic that had cost Arthur Langley his life and now threatened to unravel the fragile alliances in the Karnak camp. Poirot's little grey cells worked tirelessly, weaving the threads. Isabelle Duval's Ankh locket with its mysterious CH engraving, the British accented cloaked figure, and the possible family tie between Claude Harrington, Isabel's supposedly deceased husband, and Sir Reginald Harrington. Was Claude truly dead, or had he faked his demise to orchestrate a grand theft from the shadows? And what roles did Elena Vasquez's secretive translations and Sir Reginald's evasive grief play in this drama? The desert horizon loomed ahead, golden sands stretching like a vast, unforgiving canvas where the final strokes of truth would be painted. As the steamer docked at Luxor, Poirot disembarked with purposeful strides, hiring a caleche to carry him swiftly to the Karnak camp. The sun hung high, casting harsh shadows over the ruins, where the colossal columns of the temple complex stood as silent witnesses to millennia of intrigue. The camp appeared unchanged on the surface, tents billowing gently, workers sifting through soil under the watchful eyes of Mahmoud's officers. But Poirot sensed an undercurrent of anxiety, like a storm gathering beyond the dunes. He was greeted by Ahmed, the loyal worker, whose face lit with relief. "Monsieur Poirot, Alhamdulillah, you return safely. The camp is uneasy, the curse whispers louder, and Madame Duval has been restless, pacing by the river." Poirot nodded, thanking him, and made his way to the main tent, where he requested a private audience with Inspector Mahmoud's deputy, a stern young officer named Karim. Over a pot of strong Arabic coffee, Poirot shared the Cairo findings in hushed tones. The fingerprints on the note match Isabel's cigarette case, engraved C.H. Claude Harrington, and the ambush, hired by the widow. "We must watch her closely, but discreetly," Karim agreed, assigning subtle surveillance, his eyes reflecting the gravity of the international implications. Poirot's first confrontation was with Sir Reginald Harrington, whom he found in his personal tent, surrounded by maps and artifacts, his face haggard from sleepless nights. The collector looked up, his eyes widening in surprise. "Poirot, back so soon? Any luck in Cairo?" Poirot seated himself opposite, his gaze steady. "Luck, mon ami? None but truths, many truths. Tell me, Sir Reginald, of your brother Claude. Isabel's husband, oui? Why hide this family connection?" Sir Reginald's teacup clattered against the saucer, his face draining of colour. "How did you—" "Claude died 2 years ago, in a boating accident on the Seine." Isabelle was devastated. She took his name briefly, but reverted to Duval for her independence. "I funded this dig partly in his memory. He was obsessed with Egyptian relics." Poirot leaned forward, his voice soft but insistent. "Obsessed enough to fake his death, perhaps?" A cloaked man with a British accent dealt with Farouk in Cairo, delivering the heart of gold. "And the locket, CH, found on the boat here. Coincidences or a resurrection?" Sir Reginald buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Claude was in debt, deep in the black market. If he's alive, God help us. But I swear, Poirot, I thought him gone. Arthur discovered something about it. Confronted me the night he died. Said he'd seen letters from Claude in Isabelle's tent. Poirot's eyebrow arched, a new piece slotting into place. Arthur's knowledge had made him a target. Leaving Sir Reginald to his turmoil, Poirot sought out Elena Vasquez, finding her deep in the tomb, her lantern illuminating the golden coffin's intricate curses as she transcribed hieroglyphs onto a fresh notepad. The air was cool and musty, echoes amplifying their footsteps like ghostly warnings. "Mademoiselle Vasquez," Poirot began, his voice echoing softly. "Your Cairo texts have proven most illuminating. Farouk spoke of a heart relic matching your descriptions. But why withhold that you knew Claude Harrington? Your notes reference his earlier digs." Eleanor set down her pencil, her dark eyes meeting his with a mix of defiance and weariness. Claude was my mentor in Spain years ago. He taught me about hidden chambers like the one here. When he died, Isabel approached me for this expedition, saying it was his unfinished work. I suspected forgery in some artifacts. Those vials were tests I ran, confirming modern gold leaf on what should be ancient. Arthur found out, argued with me about exposing it. He thought Isabel was innocent, but I warned him. Claude's shadow lingers. Poirot paced slowly around the coffin, tapping his cane. And the scroll's map? Did Claude provide it? Eleanor nodded reluctantly. A copy, yes. He believed the heart granted immortality. A myth, but valuable to collectors. If he's alive, he'd kill to possess it. The sun was dipping toward the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, when Poirot finally approached Isabel Duval. She was by the Nile, her silk dress fluttering like a flag of surrender, her ankh locket catching the fading light. Madame Duval, Poirot said, joining her at the water's edge. Cairo was most revealing. Farouk remembers you well, and the cloaked man, your dear Claude, perhaps. The ambush failed, but the thug's words did not. The widow pays well. Isabel turned, her face a mask of composure cracking under the strain, tears glistening in her eyes. You think me a monster, Poirot? Claude faked his death to escape debts, yes. He contacted me months ago, promising the heart of gold would solve everything. I funded the dig, but Arthur overheard us. Claude pushed him that night to silence him. I covered for him, but I didn't kill. Her voice broke, a sob escaping as she clutched the locket. Claude has the relic now, hidden in Luxor. He plans to sell it tonight. Poirot's mind raced. This confession shifted the puzzle, pointing to Claude as the murderer, with Isabel as reluctant accomplice. As night enveloped the camp, Poirot coordinated with Karim and Mahmoud's officers, setting a trap in Luxor. They raided a discreet warehouse by the docks, where Claude Harrington, alive, scarred from his accident and cloaked, was caught mid-transaction with a shadowy buyer. The heart of gold, an exquisite artifact pulsing with ancient craftsmanship, was recovered, its surface etched with symbols of eternal life. Claude confessed under interrogation. Greed had driven him to fake his death, infiltrate the dig through Isabel, and steal the relic from the hidden chamber after Arthur's discovery. He had pushed Arthur in a rage, staging the fall. Isabel, torn by love and fear, had aided in the cover-up. While Elena and Sir Reginald were unwitting pawns, their secrets mere distractions. Back at the camp under the stars, Poirot gathered the team one final time, the golden coffin sealed once more. Mes amis, the curse was no spirit but human avarice. Claude lives in chains now. The heart returned to its rest. Sir Reginald wept for his brother's betrayal. Elena vowed to publish honest findings, and Isabel, arrested as accessory, whispered thanks for ending the nightmare. The Nile flowed on, carrying away the echoes of deception. But Poirot knew mysteries lingered in the sands, waiting for the next whisper of the wind. Chapter 9. Echoes of the past. The Karnak camp stirred under a dawn sky streaked with pink and amber, the air heavy with the scent of dew-soaked canvas and the faint musk of ancient stone. Hercule Poirot stood outside his tent, his polished shoes gleaming despite the clinging desert dust, his mind still reeling from the dramatic capture of Claude Harrington in Luxor the previous night. The heart of gold, that mesmerizing relic etched with symbols of eternal life, was now secured in a locked case under Inspector Mahmoud's guard, destined for a Cairo museum. Claude's confession had unraveled the murder of Arthur Langley, a desperate act to silence the young man's discovery of the relic's theft. But Poirot sensed the story wasn't fully told. Loose threads nagged at his little grey cells. Elena Vasquez's secretive translations, Sir Reginald Harrington's lingering guilt, and Isabel Duval's tearful claim of coercion. The golden coffin's curse seemed to linger, not in supernatural whispers, but in the human frailties it had exposed. Today, Poirot would tie these threads, ensuring no shadow of doubt remained. He began with a visit to the excavation site, where workers were cautiously resuming their tasks, their chatter subdued under the watchful eyes of Mahmoud's officers. The golden coffin gleamed in the tomb's depths, its lid now firmly sealed. But Poirot's interest lay in the hidden chamber below. Descending the narrow staircase with a lantern, he re-examined the stone pedestal where the heart of gold had once rested. In the dim light, he noticed a faint inscription on the pedestal's base, overlooked in the earlier chaos. Kneeling, he traced the hieroglyphs, recognizing symbols for guardian and sacrifice. He summoned Elena, who arrived with her notebook, her face pale but resolute. "Mademoiselle Vasquez, these symbols, translate them precisely," Poirot requested, his tone firm. Elena studied the carvings, her fingers brushing the stone. "They speak of a guardian priestess sworn to protect the heart, who was entombed alive as punishment for revealing its location to a traitor. The relic was her atonement, meant to be hidden forever." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And your earlier texts, did they mention this guardian?" Elena hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but I withheld it, fearing it would fuel Claude's obsession. I was wrong, Monsieur Poirot. Arthur died because I kept silent." Her admission, raw and unguarded, confirmed her innocence but deepened the tragedy. Poirot's next move was to confront Sir Reginald, whom he found sorting through Arthur's belongings in a small tent, his hands trembling as he packed away a journal filled with the young man's sketches. "Sir Reginald, your brother Claude's betrayal cuts deep, but your silence about his debts and dealings, why?" Poirot asked, seating himself across from the collector. Sir Reginald's shoulders slumped, his voice hoarse. "Claude was my younger brother, always reckless. When he died, I believed it, mourned him. But Arthur found letters in Claude's old study, hidden in a crate sent to the camp. They hinted he was alive, plotting with Isabel. I confronted Arthur, begged him to stay quiet to protect our family's name. He refused, said he'd expose Claude to save the dig's honor. That night he went to the tomb to gather proof, and Claude was there." Tears welled in Sir Reginald's eyes, and Poirot saw a man broken by loyalty to a brother who had forsaken him. "You did not push Arthur, but your silence shielded a killer," Poirot said gently, leaving Sir Reginald to his grief. Isabel Duval, now under guard in a secured tent awaiting transfer to Cairo for trial, was Poirot's final stop. She sat on a cot, her silk dress replaced by plain linen, the ankh locket gone, confiscated as evidence. Her eyes, red from crying, met Poirot's with a mix of defiance and despair. "Madame, your confession spared you a worse fate, but I must know, did Claude act alone in the tomb that night?" Poirot asked, his voice soft but probing. Isabel's hands twisted in her lap. "He swore he was alone, Monsieur Poirot. He said Arthur caught him moving the heart from the chamber, and in a panic he pushed him down the steps. I believed him because I loved him, fool that I was. But—" She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I saw Elena near the tomb that night before the scream. She was holding a flashlight, looking frightened. I never told Claude. She'd have been next." Poirot's moustache twitched. Elena's presence at the scene was new, a wrinkle in the tapestry. Returning to the tomb, Poirot sought Elena once more, finding her cataloguing artifacts with meticulous care, as if anchoring herself in routine. "Mademoiselle, a witness places you at the tomb the night Arthur died. You saw something. Speak now, or the truth buries you too." Elena's hands froze, and she sank onto a crate, her voice barely audible. "I couldn't sleep, worried about the forged artifacts. I went to check the coffin's seals, saw Claude and Arthur arguing by the steps. Claude was holding the heart, shouting about Cairo. I hid, terrified. When Arthur turned to leave, Claude pushed him. I ran back to my tent, too scared to speak. I thought if I stayed quiet, the dig could continue." Poirot nodded, his expression grave. "Your silence cost time, mademoiselle, but not your innocence. The truth is whole now." As evening fell, The camp gathered for a somber meal under the stars. The golden coffin's shadow no longer a spectre, but a reminder of greed's cost. Poirot addressed the team, his voice carrying over the crackling fire. Mes amis, the heart of gold was no curse, but a mirror reflecting our desires. Claude Harrington killed to possess it. Isabel hid his sins and silence bound you all. Let this be a lesson. Truth, not treasure, brings peace. The workers nodded, their fear of curses replaced by respect for justice. Sir Reginald vowed to fund ethical excavations. Elena promised transparent scholarship, and the heart would rest in a museum, its story told honestly. Poirot sat by the Nile later, the river's ripples catching the moonlight like scattered jewels. The case was nearly closed, but one final act remained. To ensure Claude's confession held in court, and Isabel's complicity was fairly judged. The desert whispered of ancient guardians and modern betrayals, but Poirot's work had silenced the loudest lies. The golden coffin's secrets were laid bare, yet the sands held more mysteries, waiting for another day, another puzzle to stir the detective's relentless mind. Chapter 10. The Final Truth. The Karnak camp lay bathed in the golden glow of a setting sun, the ancient ruins of the temple complex casting long shadows that seemed to stretch toward eternity, mirroring the weight of the secrets finally unraveling. Hercule Poirot stood at the edge of the excavation site, his impeccable suit dusted with the fine sand of the desert, his cane planted firmly in the ground as he surveyed the scene. The golden coffin, now sealed and guarded by Inspector Mahmoud's men, stood as a silent testament to the greed and betrayal that had claimed Arthur Langley's life and entangled the expedition in a web of deceit. Claude Harrington's arrest in Luxor had confirmed his role as the murderer, with Isabelle Duval as his reluctant accomplice, but Poirot's little grey cells buzzed with the need to tie every loose thread. Elena Vasquez's silence, Sir Reginald Harrington's guilt, and the lingering question of whether the heart of gold's full story had been told. Tonight, under the desert stars, Poirot would gather the camp for a final reckoning, unveiling the truth in its entirety, leaving no shadow of doubt. The Nile flowed quietly, its whispers urging closure, and Poirot was ready to deliver. As twilight deepened, Poirot summoned the remaining team, Sir Reginald, Elena, and the workers, along with Inspector Mahmoud and his deputy, Karim, to the main tent, its canvas walls glowing faintly from lanterns within. The air was thick with anticipation, the camp's usual chatter replaced by a hushed reverence, as if the ancient gods themselves awaited the detective's words. Poirot stood at the centre, his small frame commanding the space, his moustache perfectly aligned, his eyes gleaming with the clarity of resolution. Mes amis, he began, his voice steady and resonant. The golden coffin has spoken not of curses, but of human frailty, greed, love, and fear. Tonight I, Hercule Poirot, will lay bare every truth, so that justice may rest as peacefully as the priestess who guarded the heart of gold. The group leaned forward, eyes fixed on him, as the desert night held its breath. Poirot began with Claude Harrington, the man whose supposed death had set this tragedy in motion. Claude, brother to Sir Reginald, was no victim of a Parisian boating accident, Poirot declared, his gaze sweeping the tent. He faked his demise to escape crippling debts from his dealings in the black market for antiquities. In Cairo, he learned of the heart of gold, a relic of immense value, not for its mythical powers, but for its allure to collectors. He contacted his widow, Isabelle Duval, persuading her to fund this expedition under the guise of honouring his memory. Poirot turned to Isabelle, who sat under guard, her face pale but composed. Madame, you loved Claude, oui? But love blinded you. You knew he lived, and when he proposed stealing the heart, you agreed, believing it would secure your future together. Isabelle's lips trembled, but she nodded. He promised we'd start anew. I gave him the dig's funds, and he infiltrated the camp, cloaked, to steal the relic from the hidden chamber. Poirot paced slowly, his cane tapping a rhythm of revelation. Arthur Langley, young and ambitious, stumbled upon Claude's plan. He found letters in Isabel's tent, hinting at Claude's survival, and recognized the Hart's sketch from Claude's earlier digs. On the night of his death, Arthur confronted Claude in the tomb, demanding he return the relic. In a rage, Claude pushed him down the steps, staging a fall. But Claude did not act alone in spirit. Isabel, you covered his tracks, lying about your Cairo visits to Farouk, the dealer who brokered the Hart's sale. Isabel's head bowed, tears falling. I didn't know he'd kill Arthur. I only wanted Claude safe, she whispered. Poirot nodded, his expression softening but firm. Your silence made you complicit, madame, but your confession has spared you a harsher fate. Turning to Elena Vasquez, Poirot's voice grew sharper. Mademoiselle Vasquez, your knowledge of the hidden chamber and the Hart's legend came from Claude's mentorship years ago in Spain. You suspected forgery in the artifacts, confirmed by the chemical vials, but feared exposing Claude's scheme would ruin the dig's credibility. You saw Claude and Arthur that night, yet said nothing, hoping to protect your work. Elena's eyes glistened, her voice barely audible. I was a coward, Monsieur Poirot. I thought silence would save the expedition. I was wrong. Poirot raised a hand, silencing her self-reproach. Your truth, though late, completes the puzzle. The Hart was no myth. It was real, and its theft cost a life. Finally, Poirot faced Sir Reginald Harrington, whose weathered face bore the weight of familial shame. Sir Reginald, you loved your brother despite his flaws. You funded this dig in his memory, unaware he lived. But when Arthur hinted at Claude's survival, you urged him to stay quiet, fearing scandal. Your loyalty to family blinded you to the danger, and Arthur paid the price. Sir Reginald's voice broke as he spoke. I thought Claude was dead, Poirot. When Arthur told me, I couldn't believe it. I begged him to wait, to protect our name. If I'd acted, he'd be alive. Poirot's gaze softened. Regret is a heavy burden, mon ami, but you are not the killer. Claude's greed, not your silence, wielded the fatal blow. Poirot stepped back, addressing the entire group, his voice rising with finality. The heart of gold, recovered in Luxor, now rests with the authorities, destined for a museum where its story, of a priestess's sacrifice and modern betrayal, will be told truthfully. Claude Harrington faces justice for murder, Isabel for aiding him, and the camp is free of its shadows. He paused, letting the words settle, then added, the golden coffin's curse was never ancient magic, but the timeless curse of human desire. Let us learn from it, to seek truth over treasure. The workers murmured agreement, their fear of the supernatural dispelled by Poirot's clarity. Mahmoud nodded approvingly, and Karim began organizing the team's departure from the site, the excavation now a chapter closing under the weight of its revelations. As the camp dispersed into the starry night, Poirot walked to the Nile's edge, the river's gentle ripples reflecting the moon like scattered diamonds. He held the ankh locket, now evidence, its CH, engraving a reminder of Claude's duplicity. The heart of gold's journey, from sacred relic to stolen prize, mirrored the expedition's descent into chaos, but Poirot had restored order, as he always did. Sir Reginald approached, offering a weary handshake. You've saved us, Poirot, from ourselves. Elena joined, promising to dedicate her next paper to Arthur's memory, her translations honest. The workers too saluted Poirot, their respect a quiet tribute to his brilliance. As he boarded a steamer back to Cairo, Poirot reflected on the case, his heart lightened by justice served. The golden coffin would remain in the sands, its secrets no longer buried alive, but laid bare for the world. To you, dear viewers, who followed this tale of mystery and betrayal, grab a cup of tea and savor the resolution. If you've enjoyed this journey through the desert's shadows, please like and subscribe. Your support means the world to us. The Nile flows on, and so does the quest for truth, wherever Hercule Poirot's little grey cells lead next.